Hey YouTube, Logan with Hideaway Homestead coming to you today to talk to you about a really awesome plant, one that I think a lot of homesteaders are going to be familiar with, and you may know a lot of the stuff that I'm going to tell you about in this video. But we're going to talk about the elderberry, in particular the American elderberry, scientific name Sambucus canadensis. And we're gonna just talk about a little bit about the growth habits of this tree, what it's like, how to identify it, and things you can use, or ways you can use it on the homestead. Now, one of the most popular ways to use this plant is medicinally. People cook it down into jams, make wine, and jellies and syrups for colds and just common flus, ailments like that. Got a ton of different uses. Now, a little disclaimer here. I'm not going to explain all the process of being able to eat these. Now, I've heard plenty of people say that they eat them out of hand. I've eaten some, and people have fear of cyanide poisoning. I think you would have to consume quite a sufficient number of these to get cyanide poisoning. It would be just like apple seeds, almonds. There's other stuff that has cyanide in it. I don't think it's a real risk. Now, would I eat like a whole cluster of these? No, for one, because they don't taste that good when they're just right off the bush. But I think that you could eat too many of these, and I think your animals could. So I think there's some middle ground in that, because I've heard people that are so afraid of it. It's like, oh, if you eat one, you'll die. And then there's some that I think maybe don't take enough caution, because now the wood and the leaves for sure can poison you. And as far as the leaves go, I've heard of deer browsing on them pretty hard. I've never seen it, so it may be that there's not that great of concentration of cyanide in the leaves, but maybe more in the stems. I don't know, but I just wanted to give that little disclaimer out there. I'm not telling you to go out and eat this plant. You can look on the internet and on YouTube. There's plenty of people to show you how to make syrups and other stuff like that if you want to get the health benefits of this plant. Now, I do sometimes feed it to my livestock. I do not give them large quantities, because I have in the past had bad experiences with animals getting into these and eating too many. So it attracts tons of birds and stuff. They love them, but the birds, they know what they're doing. They're going to eat just as much as they want. And as long as you give plenty of access to other foods, your animals as well, like your chickens or ducks, quail, whatever it may be, will eat the proper amount as long as they have access to other things to eat. These animals know how to self-medicate. But yeah, just be cautious in all of that, and we'll continue on with the video. So identifying this plant, as you can see, they've got these long stems with opposite leaves, which means they've got a leaf on each side. They're elongated, and the berries will be black. Now, I've heard there is a cousin to these that is poisonous, that'll just straight up kill you, but they have bright red berries and tend to grow in dense shade. So as long as you've got one that's growing where there's somewhat of an open canopy or there's sun, you're probably pretty safe. The bark here, as you can see, is a light grayish brown color with little brown dots. And if you cut one open, you'll see that it has a pith in it, which is just a soft spongy like material that can be pushed out of the stick. I've heard of people making crayons and maple spiles and flutes and all kinds of stuff, just craft stuff out of the sticks. But anyway, that's pretty much identifying this plant. Now, it grows like a shrub. You're going to have multiple stems coming out of the same root mass, and the best way to manage this plant is to coppice it. And I would coppice it at least every 4 years. You can do it just about every year. I might do it on a 2-year rotation, just because 1-year rotation is a little excessive. But if you find one of these plants and you want to make more of them, it is very easy during the wintertime just to come in and cut them down, and then take 1 to 2 foot cuttings, or even longer. You could take a whole limb or a whole shoot and just stick it in the ground, and then by the time spring rolls around, you're going to have at least 90% success rate on rooting these guys. Super, super easy to propagate. You can also do it by seed, by just taking some of the berries and planting them in a spot where you want them in the fall, and next spring you'll have elderberries come up. I've done it plenty of times. Just take a cluster. Now, they can be used on the homestead for their berries, and like I said, it is more of a medicinal thing. I would put it in a rotation, keeping an eye out for, you know, not making sure you're not just giving a ton of it, especially if you have animals that are enclosed and not more free range. It can be used for areas that you need to get quick shade in. I would think it would be wonderful to plant in the corner of chicken yards to give shade, and then also to drop berries. You'll have sometimes pests get on these, and so it would be an excellent food source for chickens and ducks, geese, turkeys, stuff like that. Oh, yep, there's a stink bug right there, which I don't think the chickens would want to touch that, but I've seen Japanese beetles get on them, and I think there's certain caterpillars too. Not 100% sure on that, but definitely a food source of medicine and protein. Now, as for you using the berries, like I said, get on YouTube. I'm not an expert on making the syrups and the jams and the wines and all that stuff, so go and learn that from somebody who does it a lot. But as far as harvesting them, I can give you some really good tips. One of the things that people kind of complain about when they talk about harvesting elderberries is like, oh no, I've got to pick all these little berries. Well, if you shake them, you can see some of the berries fall off, right? But not really. And what you can do is you can come through here and just harvest, come here and cut all of these heads off of the berries, or heads of berries, and you take the berries and you put them in a bag, and then you, like a Walmart bag or a paper bag, and you throw it in the freezer. Now they'll get hard in the freezer, and then you take them out, go get in a 5-gallon bucket or some large container that you got, and hit it on the side, and they all fall off easy. So you'll be able to gather so much faster and you know, a large quantity without a whole lot of work. So that's just a little tip there for when you're harvesting them. Now you can also use the flowers for teas, and you can fry the flowers. The flowers are beautiful. They're wonderful for pollinators during the spring. We're already in berry season. I wish I would have made a video with the plants with their flowers, but anyway, that's pretty much everything I can give you on this plant. I think it's 100% worth looking into. I'm still learning things about the elderberry. I'm wanting to find more uses for them. I don't know really what I can use their leaves or their stems for. There's certain plants that, you know, they just don't work for fodder and other stuff like that, but to me it doesn't mean that they just don't have any uses just because I can't find a use for them. But a wonderful medicinal plant, brings in pollinators, brings in protein for your birds, helps support us, you know, songbirds and other granivore birds that are in your area. It's just it's a wonderful plant to have in the landscape. But if you liked this video and if it was helpful, please leave a like. Leave anything you got to add down in the comments if you've got any experience with elderberry, or if you've got anything to add, or if you've got any questions, maybe I can answer them for you. And subscribe to the channel. I talk about this kind of stuff all the time. I drop a video every day, so don't miss one. And I appreciate everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next one.